Welcome to drumsandbeats.com. Today I'm going to go over the Maschine software interface, the user interface. Now there's a ton of buttons and features here, so it's going to take some time, but once you're acquainted with it, there is a lot of power in this interface. It's very user-friendly and very sleek and clean. And that's what I love about Native Instruments. Everything they make, high quality, professional. Okay, so we're going to start up in this box here. This is like the browser box. And you can navigate different sounds and things. So we're going to start with the disk button right here. So the disk button, you can browse for things on your computer. Basically, it's just like a generic file browser, and it goes through all your folders and files on your computer. You can find samples, etc. If you want to drag in some samples into the sound banks here, you can do that there. So just click on it again to get out of it. And here, of course, you can navigate to external drives or other hard drives you have on your computer. Alright, this circular Maschine icon here, this is where you will find all of your Maschine projects. Now you can browse by the factory preset ones, the Native Instrument projects here, pre-made ones, any like add-on packs that you have, or your own created ones under user. And then of course you can sort them by type here, rock, urban, anything, same thing here. Alright, so the blue square here, this is all the drum kits in Maschine and special, like if there's synth or special kits. And in the bank, so the bank column is like a general category of where the sounds and kits are. And then you can sort by type and subtype. So if you go under kits, you can have all the different types of kits, and the acoustic kit didn't have any subtypes, and then you can browse here. So if you want to load a kit, simply select the kit you want and just drag it onto the group that you want. If you want to include pre-made patterns, then simply check this button here, which will bring along all the patterns as well. And I usually leave that unchecked because I like to create my own beats. Loops, you're gonna have all the loops, and loops are great if you wanna chop things up in the sampler. We'll get to that later in other videos. Here's multi-effects, and the orange button here are all the instruments that Maschine has, and of course the add-on packs. So anything, bass, lead, you get the point. And to drag those on, you simply select what you want and drag it onto the sound or the group. If you drag it onto the group, it will just go to the next available sound bank. And if you just drag it on the sound, of course you'll go where you want on the sound bank. So it'll load there. Same thing here, all the different types. Alright, the next thing is the patterns. I don't have any patterns here made, so we're gonna go to this one, which is instruments, like VSTs. So I have contact, massive, reactor, and by default, which is great with Maschine, it loads all the sounds into here, so you don't have to have an external VST thing floating around here. It loads them through the interface here, so you can do the same thing. So let me just show you a demo. So with VSTs, it works a tad different. It loads the same as you drag your sound into where you want, and it's going to take a while to load because it's loading massive. Okay, and you can see the icon of the VST. It shows up right here. Now if you want to edit the sound through the VST, simply simply select the edit. Just click on here and it loads the VST through there. So here's massive, and you can edit all the functions in there and just close it there. So, and once it's loaded, the great thing is that when you load the next sound, it won't take as long. So for example, boom, it's really fast because it already loaded the whole synth in there. Mind you, if you load a different one, let's say I want to load Spark, of course there's another delay because it needs to load the whole VST module. Okay, it takes a bit longer than I thought. Alright, so Reactor loads, and then of course same thing, you go edit, just click on that box and Reactor Spark loads. Okay, so that's that tab, and the next tab is effects. Of course, here's all the effects. Same thing here, you simply just drag it. You can drag it in the sound boxes, but then you would have to link up that effects to a sound, and we'll get to that later in other videos. But if you want to have your effects applied right away, simply drag it into one of these boxes here. So these are layers on the sounds. So if you want, let's say this big cat effects applied to Reactor alternate sound, simply put it here and it will load that as well. So driver loads, and then it'll apply the driver sound, and you can adjust all the settings here to the Reactor sound here. And here's all the different ones, and it loaded the guitar rig effects VST as well, so that's a great thing. And finally we have the samples right here, and for some reason it's loading a lot right now. Okay, so here we have all the samples. You can go by drums. So this is like the same as the kits, except they're individual sounds. So if you want that exact snare drum or that punchy bass drum that you're looking for, you can go through each one of these. So let's say I want a kick drum distorted. Okay, it sorts it. And if I want to hear it without dragging it into a pad, then I simply click this icon here, the preview button, and I can adjust the volume here, and I just select it, and you can hear the different sounds through there. Okay, and Maschine comes with a huge library. It's really extensive, and you can do a lot with the factory library. Of course, you can load your own samples using the disk, or just dragging files into the Maschine browser onto here. And mind you, they need to be WAV files. If they're MP3 ones, you have to convert them first. Okay, so that is that section of the Maschine software interface. Now, this is where, on the left side, it's laid out very nicely. This is where you start grabbing your samples and kits and instruments, and you drag it into here. So this section right here is your scene section. Here we have different groups. So a group is basically composed of different sounds, all of these 16 sounds, and you have different groups. So if you want a drum group with drum sounds, or bass, or I don't know, piano, whatever you want, and you go through there. And scenes are basically different sounds and patterns layered. So a scene might be, you can also rename these by double clicking on them. You might call it chorus or verse or bridge or whatever. So you can have Maschine. Right now the default is syncing by scene. So when you're playing a scene, it's going to play the whole way through before it switches to the next one if you've selected another one. You can also sync by beats, or turn sync off completely if you want to switch between scenes right on the fly. Okay, so that is that area. If you want to re-trigger it, like loop it, just keep going through there. Just click that. And here I'll just go through this area of the machine interface. So we have the master. This is controls the whole sound of machine, and then this controls just the group part of machine, the group. So if you have a whole drum set and you want to maybe add reverb or something, you can do it through there, or individual sounds. So it has like a scope from broad to narrow to really specific right here, so you can select what you want. So each of these sections, these drop down arrows, you can select effects to apply to your sound, or if you want, or if you have plugins, you load them through here by going to plugins and then clicking on the plugin that you want to load. So that's another way to do it. Instead of just dragging them in, you can load them through here. Group, same thing. So these are, you can apply up to 4 different layers right here. So if I want to load that, and each one of these, when you load, let's say chorus or something, you can adjust all the parameters here. And here is the pattern area. So you'll see your patterns being played here. If you have recorded patterns, here you have all the different sounds. Pretty straightforward. So by default, it's in the pattern. You'll just see patterns in a one-dimensional way. But if you want two-dimensional, like if you want to see all the notes of the piano and where they are, the piano roll button is right here, so you can see them if you want to edit certain ones. And of course, the sampling section here. We'll get into that later. So this is just a brief overview of all the different sections. When you're painting, how finely you want them to paint. Here you can change it if you want 16th. If you want to paint 16th notes, no problem. If you want to paint 30-second notes, no problem. Here you can paint 30-second notes. So this is where you would select that. You can also paint triplets or turn it off entirely if you want to do it fine detailed. It's also useful for quantizing. Down here is the velocity area. You can adjust the velocity of each note here, or if you have paint, you can literally just paint and drag. So I'm just dragging so if you want like a build, you would drag kind of a diagonal here and building up, maybe for snare roll or something. And here are all the different patterns. These are pattern tabs. So if you have like a basic groove, a enhanced groove, maybe a drum fill, etc. And the rest is pretty straightforward. You can drag around, go up, down. The zoom is right here if you want a finer zoom vertically or horizontally. Just hold the zoom button there. It's very, very intuitive. You just look at the icon and it's straightforward. Here's the master volume up here. If you want to cut the sound entirely, that's the master cut button. Up here you can adjust the beats per minute just by dragging your cursor. Have swing if you want any swing, and the time signature. And here's your transport in the panel. So if you want to play it, record, go to the beginning, restart. So that is a general overview, and this is hiding the velocity and modulator. So you can have different modulators, have the mixer, plugin parameters. This is for like later mixing, settings, MIDI, pitch bend, all of these things. So if you want to edit that later, if you don't have MIDI controllers, you can do it manually with your mouse there. Alright, I hope you found this informative, and hopefully you'll find your way around the interface faster than usual.